Imagine a highly intelligent, charming, and incredibly persuasive individual who, well, at first glance, seems to possess all the answers.
Right.
They navigate corporate challenges with this uncanny ease, project an aura of effortless competence. I mean, they truly seem like your ideal colleague, or perhaps even the perfect leader for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if that brilliant, captivating facade hides a profoundly destructive personality? What if, beneath the expensive suit and dazzling smile, you're actually dealing with a snake in a suit?
It's a truly unsettling paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
That someone so outwardly impressive, so seemingly capable and confident, could harbor such an inwardly harmful, even predatory nature.
Yeah.
The very qualities we often admire can, in these cases, be the most dangerous.
That's exactly why we're taking a deep dive into that very unsettling world today. The manifestation of psychopathy specifically within organizational structures. We're going to unpack the groundbreaking and, frankly, essential insights from Dr. Robert D. Hare and Dr. Paul Babiak's incredibly important book, Snakes in Suits: When Psychopaths Go to Work.
Our mission in this deep dive is pretty comprehensive. We aim to understand precisely what corporate psychopathy is, moving, far beyond the common stereotypes.
Right.
We'll then explore in detail how these individuals operate, manipulate, and crucially, how they manage to thrive in modern workplaces.
Which is the baffling part sometimes.
It really is. Perhaps most critically, we'll dissect why they often go undetected for so long, even rising to positions of significant influence. And finally, and most vitally for you, our listener, we'll equip you with the knowledge and tools to spot them and protect yourself and your organization from their profoundly destructive influence. We'll be drawing directly from the fascinating real-world examples, the rigorous research, and the practical advice presented in our source material.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because for many, when you hear the word psychopath, your mind immediately conjures images of violent criminals from true crime documentaries or, fictional villains like Hannibal Lecter. That's the popular stereotype, and it's a powerful one.
It is. And what's truly fascinating here, and perhaps counterintuitive, is that the reality, especially in corporate settings, is far more complex and insidious. Psychopaths don't exhibit obvious symptoms of mental illness in the way one might expect.
Right, no breakdowns or obvious delusions.
Exactly. You won't see them displaying clear psychosis or outward signs of distress. Instead, they often project what psychologists refer to as an unsettling mask of sanity, a term actually coined way back by Herbie Cleckley in his classic 1941 textbook of the same name.
And Cleckley's early insights, drawn from extensive clinical observations, are just so foundational to understanding this phenomenon. He meticulously observed patients who, despite possessing normal or even superior intelligence, consistently showed profoundly poor judgment.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
It is. They just didn't seem to learn from their past experiences and kept repeating dysfunctional behaviors, often causing significant harm to themselves and others. You'd think someone so smart would adapt and evolve, but for them, the lessons never seemed to stick.
Precisely. And what truly stood out in Cleckley's clinical observations was their profound lack of insight into themselves, and even more disturbingly, into the impact they had on others. They felt absolutely no remorse or shame, even for the most egregious harm they inflicted.
None at all.
None. They were notoriously unreliable, even about crucial matters, making promises they had no intention of keeping. And most strikingly, they were consummate, insincere liars about almost everything, even trivial things most people wouldn't bother to lie about.
Wow.
The most chilling part. They could appear incredibly sincere, trustworthy, and even empathetic, especially to new acquaintances, making them extraordinarily difficult to detect in initial interactions.
So, if they're so exceptionally good at constructing and maintaining this mask of sanity, at being charming and deceptive, it raises a profoundly important question. How do psychologists, in a real-world setting, reliably cut through that facade to accurately determine if someone truly possesses a psychopathic personality? It feels almost impossible to truly diagnose.
That was indeed the core challenge in the early days of research. Diagnostic criteria were vague, subjective, and often heavily dependent on the individual clinician's experience and intuition. There was no widely accepted, reliable standard for identifying these traits.
And that's where Dr. Robert D. Hare comes in, who is also one of the brilliant authors of our source material, Snakes in Suits. He stepped into this void and developed the Psychopathy Checklist Revised, or PCLR, which is now considered the gold standard for measuring psychopathy globally. It's a meticulously validated diagnostic tool, refined and confirmed through over 2 decades of rigorous statistical studies across numerous criminal populations.
Yeah, the PCLR itself is not just a simple questionnaire. It's a clinical rating scale where a trained professional assesses an individual based on a list of 20 distinct interpersonal, emotional, and lifestyle traits and behaviors.
20 specific traits.
20. Individuals are scored from 0 to 40. To give you a sense of scale, most people in the general population score less than 5. Criminals, on average, score around 19-22.
Okay.
While true psychopaths typically score 30 or higher, signifying a significant clustering of these specific traits. This provides a clear, quantitative, and empirically grounded measure.
And what's crucial for us in the corporate context is that the PCLR breaks psychopathy down into 4 distinct yet interconnected key domains. This really helps us understand the multifaceted nature of the disorder beyond just a general label and how it manifests in the workplace.
Right, gives us handles on it.
Exactly. First, there's the interpersonal domain. This describes how they present themselves. Traits like superficial charm, a grandiose sense of self-worth that can border on narcissism, and pathological deceitfulness.
And this domain is precisely why they are so effective in first impressions. Their superficial charm allows them to disarm and captivate. Their grandiose sense of self-worth means they project immense confidence and authority, often without the underlying substance.
Right, it's all projection.
Making them seem like natural leaders. And their pathological deceitfulness allows them to lie effortlessly and convincingly, creating elaborate fictions to manipulate situations and individuals. This is why you simply cannot rely on gut feel alone when evaluating these individuals in an organizational setting.
Then you have the affective domain, which speaks to what they feel, or more accurately, what they profoundly don't feel. This includes a profound lack of remorse or guilt, a distinct lack of empathy for others' suffering, and a chilling inability to accept responsibility for their actions. It's a core emotional deficit that has truly devastating implications in a professional environment.
Indeed. This emotional void means they can make ruthless, even cruel decisions without any of the internal moral or ethical checks that most of us possess. When they are in leadership roles, this lack of empathy can translate into layoffs, abusive management, or exploitative policies implemented with chilling detachment.
Wow.
Often impacting countless lives and livelihoods without a second thought. Their inability to accept responsibility means they will always deflect blame, leaving others to face the consequences of their actions.
Next up is the lifestyle domain, which describes how they actually live and operate on a day-to-day basis. This manifests as impulsivity, a parasitic nature where they live off others' efforts or resources, a profound lack of realistic long-term goals, and chronic irresponsibility across all aspects of their professional and personal lives. They struggle immensely with sustained hard work and delayed gratification.
This domain explains why they're often seen as fast movers in organizations. Their impulsivity can be mistaken for decisiveness, and their thrill-seeking can be misconstrued as entrepreneurial drive.
Okay. I see the connection.
However, this also means they will take risky shortcuts, bypass ethical considerations, and leave behind a trail of unfinished projects or broken promises because they lack the discipline for sustained, diligent effort.
Right.
Their parasitic nature means they're constantly looking for ways to exploit resources, whether it's company funds, intellectual property, or the goodwill of their colleagues for personal gain, rather than contributing genuinely.
And finally, the antisocial domain, which covers their propensity for antisocial behaviors. This includes poor behavioral controls, manifesting as sudden outbursts of temper or aggression when challenged, and a history of both adolescent and adult antisocial behavior. This can range from minor rule-breaking and defiance to more serious criminality and disregard for social norms.
This is the domain that often leads to direct harm. In a corporate context, poor behavioral controls might manifest as workplace bullying, intimidation, or inappropriate outbursts that create a hostile work environment.
Yeah, things you definitely don't want at work.
Absolutely not. A history of antisocial behavior, if unchecked, can escalate from petty theft or rule-breaking to significant fraud or even illegal activities within the organization. These 4 domains, taken together, paint a comprehensive and deeply unsettling picture of the psychopathic personality.
The science behind this is truly fascinating, and our source material delves into the biological underpinnings. Researchers have even delved into the biological basis of psychopathy. Brain scan experiments, particularly using fMRI, reveal a really striking difference.
Yeah, this stuff is amazing.
Isn't it? Non-psychopaths show distinct brain responses, particularly in regions like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, when processing emotional material versus neutral content. These are the areas associated with fear, empathy, and moral decision-making.
But for psychopaths, these crucial emotional processing centers remain largely unstimulated. Their brains react to a graphic image of human suffering, for instance, much the same way they'd react to reading a grocery list.
Seriously, that flat.
That flat. What's fascinating here is that psychopaths process emotional material as if it were neutral, engaging primarily the language processing regions of the brain. They literally know the words, but not the music of emotion.
Wow. Know the words, but not the music.
They can intellectually describe what sadness or remorse means, but they don't experience the visceral feeling that accompanies them.
So it's almost like a twisted version of Spock from Star Trek. He can logically appraise situations, compute probabilities, and make decisions, but without the intense emotional reactions that others would have.
Right, the cognitive part is there.
But there's a crucial distinction, isn't there? Unlike Spock, who is guided by a highly developed logical and ethical framework rooted in Vulcan principles, psychopaths lack an inherent moral compass.
That's the key difference.
They don't have those built-in ethical and moral standards that guide Spock's actions, even without emotion. For a psychopath, there's no internal mechanism to differentiate between right and wrong beyond what soothes their immediate self-interest.
Precisely. It's an absence of the very emotional and ethical guardrails that guide most human behavior. And when we talk about the origins of these traits, the age-old question of nature versus nurture inevitably comes up.
Always does.
And as with most complex human traits, the answer, as highlighted in the source, is that both play a significant intertwined role in the development of psychopathic features. There's evidence pointing to genetic predispositions influencing brain structure and function, combined with environmental influences during critical developmental periods that can either exacerbate or, in some cases, perhaps mitigate certain features.
We've spent a significant portion of our deep dive peering into the shadowy world of the corporate psychopath, understanding their chilling nature, their motivations, and their intricate playbook. It's unsettling, to say the least, to realize these individuals walk among us.
It really is.
But this isn't just about identification. It's about understanding why they seem to flourish where others might falter. So, having understood the threat, the crucial next question becomes, if they are so fundamentally flawed, characterized by a profound lack of empathy, chronic irresponsibility, and pathological lying, why are they not just surviving, but often thriving and ascending to positions of power in some of the most competitive corporate environments? What is it about today's business world that creates such fertile ground for them?
It really is a perfect storm created by the very evolution of business itself. Historically, large corporate bureaucracies provided a certain stability. There was often a deeply ingrained psychological contract.
Right. Loyalty, long-term careers.
Exactly. Loyalty and long-term employment between employer and employee. Job satisfaction was frequently tied not just to money, but to social interaction, a sense of belonging, and engaging in meaningful work. People generally felt secure in their roles and could anticipate a predictable career trajectory.
But here's where it gets really interesting, as the source material points out. The rapid acceleration of change since the 1980s and 90s, driven by relentless technological innovation, fierce global competition, and the constant pressure for higher profits, completely shifted this landscape.
Completely. Companies are now perpetually in a state of transitioning.
Always restructuring.
Always.
Yeah.
Characterized by radical restructuring, downsizing, mergers, and acquisitions.
Chaos, basically.
Pretty much. This creates environments characterized by unclear rules, ambiguous reporting lines, inconsistent risk-taking, and a far greater tolerance for what might be considered controversial or aggressive behaviors. And this chaotic, unpredictable environment creates prime opportunities for psychopaths to not just survive, but to truly thrive and rise quickly.
Right. In such turbulent times where traditional structures are crumbling, psychopaths often appear as knights on a white horse. They are cool, calm, and supremely confident, seemingly able to make fast decisions with less information than others might need.
Yeah, they look decisive.
Their inherent impulsivity and thrill-seeking, which would be massive red flags in a stable ethical environment, can easily be mistaken for high energy, courage, decisive action, and an impressive ability to multitask under pressure.
Totally.
They project an aura of leadership and control precisely when others feel most uncertain.
And this raises an important question. When does entrepreneurial drive cross the line into something far more sinister? The Canadian Ethics Commissioner, for instance, once famously opined that a patronage scandal, which most would view as deeply corrupt, could cynically be viewed as either a triumph of theft or, from a certain Machiavellian perspective, a triumph of entrepreneurship.
Wow, that's cynical.
It is. The blurred lines of fast-paced, high-risk modern business, coupled with a focus on results above process, can tragically obscure true intent and allow morally bankrupt individuals to flourish. It's a chilling paradox.
Yeah.
The very traits we often praise and seek in fast-paced modern business environments, decisive action, risk-taking, even a certain ruthless efficiency, are precisely what psychopathic individuals excel at mimicking.
Right, they mimic the good part.
Allowing them to not just survive, but thrive and rise unnoticed.
And it's not just the chaotic environment itself. There are specific systemic vulnerabilities in how organizations recruit, evaluate, and promote people that psychopaths exploit beautifully. For example, the pervasive gut feel trap in hiring.
Oh yeah, gut feel.
As you move up the corporate ladder, job responsibilities become increasingly less concrete and more abstract. We're talking about amorphous concepts like strategic planning, visionary leadership, or building a dynamic culture, which are inherently ambiguous and difficult to quantify.
This ambiguity means that objective criteria become less dominant, and subjective measures like gut feel, personal chemistry, and simply liking someone become much more influential in hiring and promotion decisions. And this is exactly where the psychopath shines. Their superficial charm, their uncanny ability to mimic appropriate emotions, and their masterful impression management allow them to create an immediate, overwhelmingly positive impression.
Okay, they nail the interview.
Tapping directly into that gut feel that an interviewer or senior executive might be relying on, they present exactly what you want to see.
Then there's the pervasive lure of the resume. Our source material confirms what many executive recruiters already know from painful experience. A significant number of executive resumes contain exaggerations, or, more disturbingly, outright lies.
It's pretty bad.
We're talking about everything from inflated responsibilities and fabricated years of service to completely false degrees or certifications. The research cited in Snakes and Suits indicates that about 1/3 of managerial resumes,
A third?
and a shocking 15% of top executives' resumes contain significant fabrications.
15% at the top level. The source provides a truly striking and almost unbelievable case example of Seymour Schlager, which perfectly illustrates this vulnerability. Schlager managed to become a top executive scientist at a major medical device company, a highly sensitive and critical role.
Okay, so high stakes.
Very high stakes. He achieved this by systematically faking multiple medical degrees, a PhD in organic chemistry, and, astonishingly, even hid an attempted murder conviction and significant prison time.
No way! How?
Incredibly, his prison address was sometimes used as his return address on resumes, yet he was still hired. This highlights how easily these fabrications can go undetected if due diligence isn't rigorous, or if the organization is too eager to fill a role or blinded by a compelling story.
That's just astounding. And once they get to the interview stage, that process itself becomes a meticulously designed performance, a stage for them to display their talents.
Oh, it's pure theater for them.
Psychopaths are masters at talking a good game. They appear smooth, articulate, incredibly talented, exceptionally bright, seemingly sensitive, and brimming with self-confidence. Their storytelling abilities are so compelling, so vivid, and so rich with fabricated detail that their invented experiences sound completely genuine and deeply impressive.
Yeah, initial phone interviews are particularly difficult to use for detection, as you're missing the crucial visual cues of body language and microexpressions.
True.
But even face-to-face interviews are problematic because psychopaths are incredibly astute at reading interviewers. They pick up on your subtle cues, your values, your priorities, and then they expertly tailor their responses to what they believe the interviewer wants to hear, often mirroring the interviewer's own personality.
Wow.
They don't have a genuine agenda to be a good, ethical employee. Their hidden agenda is singular: to play head games, to gain money and power, and to ruthlessly take advantage of the company and anyone who gets in their way.
And the statistics are pretty stark and serve as a powerful warning. Research cited in Snakes in Suits indicates that approximately 3.5% of high-potential executives fit the psychopathic profile.
3.5%.
That's a staggering rate, significantly higher than the roughly 1% prevalence in the general population. These individuals, despite their destructive nature, often display classic psychopathic traits like superficiality, grandiosity, deceitfulness, impulsivity, chronic irresponsibility, and a profound lack of goals, remorse, or empathy.
All hallmarks.
And yet they are overrepresented in positions of significant influence. It's a wake-up call for organizations.
It really is. So having understood the nature of the snake and why they find fertile ground in modern corporations, let's turn our attention to how they actually operate once they're inside an organization.
Yeah, the playbook.
Exactly. The source material meticulously details a consistent pattern in their parasitic relationships, often broken down into 3 distinct yet fluid phases.
Right, the assessment phase is first. They're like human scanners, but far more sophisticated and cold-blooded than any machine.
Yeah, good analogy.
They quickly and astutely read people, dissecting their personalities, identifying their likes, dislikes, motives, needs, and what are often called hot buttons. Those emotional triggers, deeply held values, or hidden insecurities that can be subtly and ruthlessly exploited.
They zero in.
They're constantly evaluating every individual for their potential usefulness as a source of money, power, sex, or influence. It's a purely cold, calculated evaluation of utility.
A chilling example from the source is the puppet master anecdote, where an offender described in disturbing detail how he meticulously learned a friend's unresolved issues from childhood, specifically to manipulate him into committing murder.
Oh my God.
His motivation was pure control and power, an insatiable desire to pull the strings and feed his own perverse gratification. This illustrates the depth of their assessment capabilities. They aren't just looking for superficial weaknesses, they're searching for profound psychological vulnerabilities to exploit.
Once they've got your number, once they've mapped out your hot buttons and assessed your utility, they move into the manipulation phase. This isn't a one-off event. This is the core, the very bulk of their daily organizational existence.
Right, this is their default mode.
They are constantly working their angles, constantly setting up scenarios to benefit themselves. A key tactic here is impression management, making them true social chameleons.
They are masters of wearing many masks, shifting their persona with unnerving skill to perfectly suit the situation and the specific victim they're interacting with at any given moment. They blend in like chameleons, meticulously adapting their behavior, their language, even their apparent values to remain invisible predators.
Staying hidden.
Hiding their true intentions for extended periods. The source recounts the incredible story of Fabian Ortuno, who conned high society in Europe by pretending to be a Rockefeller, accumulating vast sums of money and prestige.
A Rockefeller, wow.
Yeah. When that scam ran its course, he simply reappeared in North America under a new identity, Christopher Rocancourt, adopting the persona of a Formula One driver, successfully bilking people again through the sheer force of his convincing chameleon-like ability to inhabit different, incredibly credible identities.
Unbelievable audacity. Another absolutely hallmark behavior of their manipulation, and one of the most frustrating for victims, is pathological lying.
Oh, constantly.
They lie with absolute impunity, completely unburdened by social anxieties, by the fear of being found out, by empathy, or by any sense of guilt. Their fabricated stories are often so elaborate, so believable, and so inherently entertaining or compelling that victims often trust them instinctively, even coming to doubt their own knowledge of the truth or their own sanity in the face of such convincing deception.
The source provides a vivid, almost cinematic example. A fast-talking suspect, caught in the act, managing to convince an arresting police officer that he never had a gun or shot at him, despite the officer having literally returned fire.
Get out! He convinced the cop.
That's the story. That's the level of pathological lying we're talking about, a complete rewriting of reality. Or consider the truly astonishing case of Paul Coffin, a Canadian ad executive who defrauded the government of $1.5 million.
Okay.
He was sentenced to no jail time, received probation, and perhaps most galling of all, was then offered a speaking circuit where he gave university lectures on ethics titled Never compromise your integrity.
You cannot make this stuff up. Lecturing on ethics after defrauding the government.
It's a profound, almost darkly comedic illustration of their ability to maintain a facade of respectability, even projecting moral authority even after their crimes have been exposed. They simply don't experience the shame that would stop a non-psychopath.
And when things inevitably go wrong, as they always do when a psychopath is involved, they're absolute masters of avoiding responsibility.
Never their fault, ever.
They possess an impressive, almost endless array of excuses, always blaming others, external circumstances, or cruel twists of fate for their misdeeds. They may even go as far as to blame their victims for their own misfortune, offering convincing, twisted reasons why the victims deserved what happened to them or were somehow complicit.
We see this clearly with the case of Al, a white-collar criminal on probation after being caught for significant fraud. He feigned humility and stated his new life goal was to regain my integrity.
Oh, please.
All while secretly continuing his manipulative patterns. Their lack of remorse means the blame is always external, never internal, and they are extraordinarily convincing in shifting that blame, even to the most improbable targets. They simply cannot internalize fault.
And what really drives much of this constantly active manipulative behavior, according to the source, is their profound need for stimulation.
They get bored easily,
Yeah.
very easily.
Their brain physiology suggests they require a considerable amount of novel, intense, and often risky stimulation to avoid overwhelming boredom. This isn't just a preference, it's a deeply ingrained neurobiological need.
This constant need for stimulation often leads them to seek out high-risk, thrill-seeking opportunities, which in a corporate setting can translate into unethical shortcuts, fraudulent schemes, or antisocial behavior. They struggle profoundly with sustained hard work or delayed gratification.
Right, the boring stuff.
The mundane, diligent effort required for long-term strategic projects simply doesn't stimulate them. Instead, they seek immediate, intense gratification, which can manifest as highly risky and ultimately destructive actions that, to the untrained eye, might initially look like entrepreneurial daring or bold leadership.
Ah, another case of misinterpretation.
Exactly. They chase the high of the deal, the conquest, the manipulation, not the steady grind of building something real.
Once a victim's utility is exhausted, meaning they've been drained of their money, their power, their reputation, or their resources, the psychopath moves into the chilling abandonment phase.
Use them up and throw them away.
They abruptly disappear from the victim's life, or the victim finds themselves suddenly discarded, often without warning. They have absolutely no concept of guilt or regret, viewing people simply as objects to be used and discarded once they no longer serve a purpose.
The example of Sammy the Slimeball illustrates this perfectly. Sammy systematically infiltrated various churches, meticulously building trust by fabricating a tragic backstory and displaying ostentatious financial success.
Playing on their faith and trust.
Totally. He then encouraged members to invest in phony deals, promising incredible returns. Once he had siphoned off significant funds from his trusting victims, he simply disappeared without a trace, only to resurface in another state, meticulously rebuilding his fabricated persona to repeat the scam.
Wow. Zero conscience.
Zero. There's no emotional attachment, no lingering conscience, just a purely transactional, exploitative use of people followed by a clean break.
While psychopaths excel at manipulating individuals one-on-one, some of the most destructive and expansive schemes involve manipulating entire groups. This source material highlights how affinity groups, whether they are religious, political, social clubs, or even professional associations, are particularly vulnerable to this type of manipulation.
That's because of the pre-existing collective trust that naturally exists among members who share common values, beliefs, or interests.
Right, the trust is already built in.
A con artist doesn't need to build trust from scratch with each individual. They simply tap into the pre-established bonds within the group. Brian Richards is a stark example. He wheedled his way into a religious community, not through spiritual depth, but through a fabricated persona and manipulative tactics.
How did you do it?
He held Christian power hour sessions, feigned instant intimacy, and spun a bewildering line of tall tales that captivated his audience, ultimately defrauding them of substantial sums. He preyed on their shared faith and openness, weaponizing their virtues against them.
That's particularly insidious. And the source notes a sort of chilling one-third rule that often applies in these group manipulations, and it really underscores the psychopath's staying power.
Yeah, the one-third rule. It's fascinating.
Roughly a third of a group will be immediately impressed by the psychopath's charisma and compelling narratives. Another third will be somewhat suspicious, harboring doubts, but perhaps lacking concrete evidence. And the final third will reserve judgment, waiting to see how things play out.
And the kicker.
What's chilling is that even after the scams are exposed, even after the psychopath's true nature is laid bare, those initial opinions often remain stubbornly unchanged. Some of the impressed third will simply refuse to believe they were conned, defending the psychopath even in the face of overwhelming evidence.
It's incredible denial. This makes it incredibly difficult to truly dislodge them from a group once they've established a foothold.
To truly understand the insidious nature of the snake in a suit, the source provides several illuminating case studies, corporate play-by-plays that reveal their tactics in action. Take Dave's deception, a seemingly minor but deeply manipulative office encounter.
Yeah, this one's subtle but revealing.
Dave, with his initial charm and apparent leadership potential, completely captivated Frank, a well-meaning and trusting colleague.
And Dave's move was incredibly calculated and cruel. He not only stole Frank's meticulously prepared presentation, but then, with feigned concern and a theatrical flourish, spun a story about finding a missing disc that conveniently saved the day.
Oh, so he creates the problem and then solves it.
Exactly. This allowed him to secure effusive praise from John, the boss's boss, all while subtly deflecting any blame from himself onto Frank. He even chillingly made Frank believe he was doing him a favor by rescuing the project from what Dave slyly implied was Frank's own disorganization.
That's gaslighting 101.
Textbook. It's a masterclass in gaslighting, twisting reality to make the victim doubt their own competence and perception, thereby cementing the psychopath's perceived value while diminishing the target.
Then there's Helen the Pitbull. Her rapid ascent from hotshot whiz kid to COO was characterized by what the source calls extensive collateral damage.
She left bodies in her wake, metaphorically speaking.
Right. She stage managed meetings with incredible precision, ensuring information flowed only as she desired. She expertly manipulated her boss, playing on his insecurities and ambitions, while simultaneously intimidating direct reports through public humiliation and veiled threats.
A classic pincer move. Control up, terrorize down.
Ultimately, she was revealed as a sophisticated fraudster, siphoning company assets into her own offshore accounts.
And her ruthlessness was truly astounding. She would fire new appointments to her management team in rapid succession, often within days or weeks of their hiring.
Just churning through people.
With absolutely no concern whatsoever for the profound damage she did to their careers or the company's potential legal problems from wrongful termination. People were simply disposable resources in her strategic game, brought in and cast aside as needed to maintain her facade and consolidate her power, leaving a trail of broken professional lives in her wake.
Another compelling example is Ron's power play. Ron, a seemingly competent salesperson, initially used his old boss Joe as a convenient shield, constantly leveraging their past relationship to explain away his underperformance and avoid accountability.
Always blaming the past or someone else.
But once Joe was gone, Ron immediately shifted tactics. He began meticulously gathering dirt on his new boss, Jack, collecting any scrap of information that could be used for leverage or blackmail.
Even a little black book.
Exactly. He then used theatrical outbursts and feigned victimhood, sudden tears, dramatic declarations of feeling persecuted, to manipulate Jack into being lenient, creating an emotional minefield that made it almost impossible for Jack to hold him accountable.
Playing the victim card expertly.
All the while, Ron successfully avoided implementing new procedures that were designed to improve sales performance, thereby maintaining his inefficient methods and control to the detriment of the entire team.
So we've painted a rather unsettling picture of the snake in a suit, cunning, manipulative, and often devastating in their impact on individuals and organizations. The challenge feels immense, almost insurmountable.
It really does.
But the book Snakes in Suits doesn't leave us without hope or a plan. Understanding their playbook is the absolutely essential first step, and now we pivot to the crucial question. How do we as individuals protect ourselves, and how can organizations build robust, systemic defenses against these destructive forces?
Okay, practical steps. Let's start with personal self-defense, because as the source material powerfully argues, knowledge truly is power. You simply can't fight what you don't understand.
Absolutely. And beyond just knowing the general traits, you also need to rigorously know your weaknesses. Psychopaths are remarkably adept at identifying and exploiting your personal flaws, your hot buttons, those emotional triggers or deeply held values you might have, and your insecurities.
They find the chinks in your armor.
They probe, test, and then zero in. Having a realistic, honest picture of your own vulnerabilities is absolutely crucial for your defense because they will systematically target them to manipulate and control you. Be self-aware because they will be observing you with surgical precision.
And this ties into the next extremely vital point.
Yeah.
Beware of first impressions. Psychopaths' charm and charisma can be incredibly effective, almost hypnotic.
They sweep you off your feet, professionally speaking.
Right. They disarm you immediately. But the source warns that they are like the alluring promise offered by the jacket of a bad book, incredibly appealing on the surface, but hollow and dangerous inside. Avoid what the authors call the psychopathic bond, which is based entirely on faked intimacy.
It feels real, but it isn't.
On a manufactured connection designed solely to gain your trust for later exploitation. Don't mistake intense, rapid connection for genuine rapport.
Furthermore, and this is critical, do not collude in the psychopath's game. These relationships are profoundly one-sided, a predatory dynamic. Do not participate in their manipulative schemes, whether it's spreading rumors, undermining colleagues, or covering up their misdeeds.
Don't become their pawn.
Exactly. Do not accept their unwarranted criticism, their veiled threats, or their attempts at intimidation, all of which are tactics used to maintain dominance and control over you. Engaging only serves their purpose and draws you deeper into their web. Your best defense is to refuse to play their game entirely.
A huge, perhaps the most emotionally taxing part of personal self-defense is to address self-doubt and denial. Victims of psychopathic manipulation often end up blaming themselves, feeling like they're somehow the problem, that they misunderstood, or that they deserved a mistreatment. It's absolutely vital to seek outside confirmation from trusted friends, family, or professionals who can offer an objective perspective.
Get a reality check.
Yes. And critically, document everything that happens, every interaction, every promise, every threat, every perceived slight. A paper trail provides concrete evidence against their gaslighting.
And if you are being abused, whether emotionally, psychologically, or physically, seek help immediately. Shame can tragically prevent victims from coming forward, making them feel isolated and trapped. But it's crucial to understand it's not your fault.
You have to break the silence.
You do.
Yeah.
Work through those feelings of shame, because they are a tool the psychopath uses to keep you silent. The source provides a sobering, cautionary tale of a prison psychologist who, despite having read Hare's definitive book Without Conscience, still found herself manipulated into an affair with a psychopathic inmate.
Even an expert.
Even an expert. This powerfully demonstrates how even those with considerable knowledge and training can still fall victim to their cunning, underlining the need for external support and swift action.
Beyond individual self-defense, organizations themselves need to build robust systemic defenses, starting with what should be your first and best line of defense, strengthening hiring and selection processes.
This is ground zero.
This is where you have the greatest opportunity to intercept them before they ever infiltrate your ranks.
You absolutely need to rethink resumes.
Yeah.
Recognize their inherent weakness. They are, as we discussed with Sivo Schlager, incredibly easy to fake or embellish. Generic background checks that merely confirm dates of employment are woefully insufficient.
Not enough.
Not nearly enough. Deeper digging is absolutely necessary. This means actually calling previous supervisors, not just the references provided by the candidate, and asking very specific behavioral questions about past performance and conduct. Look for inconsistencies, vagueness, or overly glowing but unsubstantiated praise.
And critically, structured interviews are key. Instead of free-flowing, informal, friendly conversations or relying heavily on gut feel, which, as we've learned, is exactly where the psychopath excels.
Yeah, avoid the charm offensive trap.
You must stick to a clear, consistent plan. Ask probing, behavioral questions. Tell me about a time when, well, how did you handle a situation where, and take detailed, objective notes on their specific responses, not just your impression.
Get concrete examples.
For technical roles, ensure a technical interviewer drills intensely into portfolio details, demanding concrete evidence and specific examples of work, rather than just accepting broad claims.
Furthermore, you must meticulously verify everything. Go far beyond standard employment verification, which often just confirms dates and titles. Reference checks are vital, but be aware that psychopaths almost always provide false references or enlist patrons, individuals they've previously charmed or manipulated, who will give glowing, yet often misleading, reviews.
Ah, the fake references.
The key is to look for dramatic differences in reports from different sources. The suspiciously glowing patron versus the skeptical patsy, some of the psychopath has used and discarded, can reveal a lot of valuable contradictory information. This means not just checking who they provide, but seeking out others who have worked with them.
And while psychological assessments can provide valuable data, it's essential to utilize assessments wisely. Self-report tests, especially, can often be beaten by intelligent psychopaths who understand what constitutes a socially desirable answer.
They know how to fake good.
They know how to appear normal. Therefore, assessments should be just one source of data among many, weighed carefully against independent behavioral observations, thorough background checks, and detailed references from diverse sources. Don't let a single test result override all other red flags.
For organizations, robust succession planning is another crucial systemic defense mechanism, ensuring orderly leadership continuity and preventing the sudden rise of a snake.
Planning for the future helps block them.
It can. This involves multiple assessments over time. Formal succession plans should incorporate diverse evaluation methods, thorough psychological evaluations, detailed 360-degree ratings, feedback collected anonymously from peers, bosses, and subordinates.
Getting the full picture.
And assessment centers, which are simulated work settings designed to observe how candidates perform under pressure and interact in realistic scenarios. This combination provides a comprehensive, cross-checked view of a candidate's true capabilities, character, and ethical behavior, making it far harder for a psychopath's mask to hold up.
And a major pitfall to absolutely avoid is the crown prince-princess approach, grooming only one charismatic person for a key position.
Big mistake.
This creates a single point of failure and allows a manipulative individual to eliminate competition subtly. Instead, create a diverse talent pool to encourage internal competition among several qualified candidates. This not only strengthens the overall talent pipeline, but also provides natural comparison points.
Yeah, you can compare and contrast behaviors.
Allowing leaders to objectively compare behaviors, contributions, and ethical conduct among multiple potential successors.
The focus should always be on competencies that go beyond superficial charisma. Evaluate candidates not just on surface charm or bold pronouncements, but on tangible abilities like genuine business acumen, clear strategic thinking, effective and honest communication, and crucially, strong relationship building.
And how they treat everyone, not just the boss.
Exactly. And when we say relationship building, we mean with peers and subordinates, not just superiors. Do they empower their teams, or do they hoard information and take credit? Assess their judgment in complex situations and their adherence to core values, not just what they profess.
Ultimately, you want to cultivate a healthy organizational culture. This means actively promoting open communication and trust at every level. Psychopaths thrive on secrecy in situations where the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing can be intentionally created by them,
They exploit silos.
allowing them to play departments against each other, or hide their misdeeds in the gaps between teams. Transparency through regular cross-functional meetings, shared information platforms, and consistent communication from leadership becomes a powerful antidote, making it far harder for them to operate in the shadows and spin their webs of deceit.
You also need to actively encourage sharing. Psychopaths are notorious for siphoning off resources, hoarding information for personal power, and rarely, if ever, sharing credit for successes.
The information black holes.
Right. Implementing structured feedback mechanisms such as 360-degree reviews that specifically ask about team collaboration, information sharing, and credit distribution, or even regular project retrospectives where contribution is openly discussed, can serve as an early warning system. When someone consistently fails to share, takes credit for others' work, or isolates information, it should trigger a closer look.
And because bullying and intimidation are common, often preferred psychopathic tactics to control and dominate, organizations must implement clear, robust anti-bullying policies.
Zero tolerance.
These policies need to be clear, widely communicated to every employee, and managers must be thoroughly trained to recognize and address such behaviors immediately, rather than dismissing them as personality clashes. Confidential reporting mechanisms are also vital to protect victims who fear retaliation.
Got to make it safe to speak up.
Ensuring that complaints about abusive behavior can surface safely and be investigated thoroughly.
Now, for managing a psychopathic boss, or even a highly manipulative colleague, there are specific tactical steps you can take to protect yourself and your professional standing. First and foremost, document everything.
The paper trail again.
Crucial. Put assignments and objectives in writing, even if they were given verbally. Note all feedback, positive and negative threats, and any use of profanity verbatim in your personal notes. This creates an undeniable record they can't easily deny or distort, which will be invaluable if you need to escalate the issue.
And utilize performance appraisals strategically as a self-defense tool. Always submit detailed self-assessments that clearly outline your contributions and achievements.
Don't let them write your story.
During official reviews, especially if criticisms are vague, politely but firmly ask for specific behavioral examples to back up any claims, and always take detailed notes. Don't let vague generalities or unsubstantiated accusations stand unchallenged, and always ensure your perspective is formally recorded.
When publicly berated or humiliated, which is a common psychopathic tactic to assert dominance and control, don't take the bait.
Stay calm. Don't react.
Your instinct might be to react emotionally, but calmly state the facts, defend your decisions with objective data, or, if appropriate, admit a minor fault and ask for the opportunity to try again. Never retaliate in kind or get drawn into an emotional argument, as it plays directly into their hands and makes you look unprofessional.
Right. They want you to lose control.
Maintaining your composure demonstrates your professionalism and competence, even when they attempt to make you look bad.
If you reach a point where you need to consider making formal complaints, assess the situation very carefully and strategically. Psychopaths are masters at poisoning the well, regarding your reputation with superiors in HR long before you ever come forward.
Yeah, they work behind the scenes.
Understand your company's formal procedures for anonymous reporting, as coming forward openly might put you at greater risk if the organization is not ready or equipped to act effectively against a manipulative individual, especially one in a position of power. Gather your evidence, understand the process, and proceed with caution.
Finally, if you are a manager yourself, maintain open lines of communication with your own staff and with your boss. Document any issues you observe. Build strong, trusting relationships with your team and your colleagues to counter any disinformation campaigns a snake might launch against you or your department.
Your network is your defense.
The strength of your network, built on genuine trust and shared information, can serve as a powerful counter to their isolationist tactics and their attempts to divide and conquer.
We've truly uncovered that corporate psychopaths are not cartoon villains, but rather cunning, charming, and profoundly destructive individuals who operate right within our professional lives.
They're real, and they're among us.
They thrive on chaos, expertly exploit organizational vulnerabilities in recruitment, promotion, and culture, and often leave a devastating trail of damaged careers, broken teams, and financial ruin in their wake. However, with the knowledge of their methods and systemic vigilance, both individuals and organizations can build robust, effective defenses against their insidious influence.
This deep dive into the insights from snakes in suits highlights a crucial paradox for modern organizations. In a world that increasingly values charisma, decisive action, aggressive entrepreneurship, and a relentless focus on results, traits that psychopaths often mimic with chilling precision. How do we truly balance our desire for strong, effective leadership with the critical need for integrity, for genuine empathy, and for authentic human connection?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can we truly differentiate between a triumph of entrepreneurship that genuinely creates value and a triumph of theft that merely exploits systems and people for personal gain before it's too late and the damage is irreversible?
A tough challenge.
As you navigate your own professional path, keep these insights in mind, for they are more relevant than ever. What stands out to you as the most crucial defense mechanism against this snake in a suit you might encounter, or perhaps even work alongside?